Because race truck. Hey, welcome to Squarebody Stuff. I'm Chad, your host. Got Squeaky yet again back in the shop. Gonna finish up the nitrous setup. And before we get started, I'm gonna turn it over to Stumpy for a little bit of an announcement for you. Hey y'all, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down there below and ring that little bell there next to it, because that gives you notifications whenever we put up a new video over here on Squarebody Stuff. Give us a thumbs up if you want to. We'll catch you later. Now we got that out of the way. If you haven't been following along, if you're new to the channel, this is my 78 C10 step side that I call my race truck. It's just got a little 305 in. I put a cam and some valve springs and whatever. It sounds like it's mean, but it ain't. It's slow. I've got some drag racing videos. I'll put some cards up here in the corner. You can click on those, check those videos out, kind of get you up to speed. But where we're at right now is I've got the nitrous system hooked up other than the electrical. I do have a couple other hard parts I need to switch out or work on before I hook up the electrical. One of those is let me turn my light on, is I need to hook up my purge valve. I got a piece of 3/16 line. I'll run it up through the firewall, and I've also got a fitting here I want to change out to get rid of this little short section of hose. So other than that, I've pretty much got all the hard parts done. I got the fuel regulator, I've got a fuel pump underneath, ready to go. Got a standalone fuel system. We'll go back here and check out the fuel cell and the nitrous bottle. So this is probably my least favorite part of any project, is the electrical. It's not because it's that hard or anything, just one of those things. It's the last step to make everything work, and I end up not making it look as good as what I want it to look because I'm ready to use stuff. So I always get a little frustrated with myself after I get all done. Say, well, I'll tidy up the wires whenever I get done, and sometimes I have to rerun the wires just to make it look right, and I get a little frustrated when it comes to electrical, but it's got to get done so we can actually use this stuff. I've got a couple relays to hook up. I've got a whole bag full of electrical goodies. Got a switch. Also need to hook up my micro switch for the throttle, because the nitrous, once it's armed with this switch, we'll be going through a relay, and this switch will be hooked to wide open throttle, or to the throttle, whenever the nitrous won't kick on until it's wide open throttle. I'm not going to worry about having a button in the cab, something else to deal with. I will have a button in there for the purge. It is right here. Not sure where I'm going to put that. Haven't figured it all out yet, but it's got a bag full of goodies, some wire and stuff. So I will get started on this. Y'all just follow along. Alright, first thing I'll be doing is replacing this 90-degree with a male fitting, do the 90-degree with the female. That way it will hook directly to my fuel filter and get rid of this little bit of a mess here. It'll just clean it up a whole bunch. That looks a whole lot better, a lot cleaner. Once I get everything wrapped up stuff, I'm going to probably zip tie that to the fuel rail to support it so it's not bouncing around. Now we'll move on to our purge line. Now, purge line is just a compression fitting with 3/16 line. So I went to the parts house, got me some 3/16 brake line, and I'll get it bent around and drill a hole, put a grommet, whatever, to get this to work. Got the purge line finished up. Goes up to the firewall through a little grommet, and it lines up just in between one of the slots in the hood. Bam. That ought to look pretty good. So now we're on to the electrical. I started underneath the truck just to get it out of the way. See, I've got my ground hooked to chassis ground, and then my positive wire run up with the wire loom. I've got it fastened to the frame with some little sticky things all zip tied up. So I've got everything underneath the truck pretty well tidied up, and from underneath I got my wire coming up through the factory wire loom here along the inner fender, and I've just got it. I'll tuck it in after I get everything else done. I'll tuck it in with this wire loom underneath the upper radiator mount, and it'll be going over to here. I'll have the two relays here next to my fan relay. All three of my relays will be in the same spot. Alright, I moved to inside the cab to get my switch panel figured out. Wasn't sure if I was where I was gonna put it, because this has got the blank spot over here where a vent would be if it was an air conditioned cab. But I decided to put a panel over the radio spot because I'm not going to have a radio in it. It was all chewed up anyway, so I'm going to cut it out to put a different radio in it. I started out by making a template out of a beer box, and then I transferred it over to a piece of sheet metal, cut it out, drilled some holes, and now I've got to make sure or see where I'm going to put my switches. I got the switches wired up. I've got it plugged into a 12-volt source. Whenever I turn the key on, it sends power to the switch, then it jumpers over to the purge switch, because it's just going to be a momentary. Just as soon as I hit that button, I don't need it on a relay. Just jump it off of there and mount it up. Then we move on to the wiring inside the engine compartment. I know it's kind of hard to see, I ain't got the greatest light, but here's my yellow and white wires coming through the firewall. I've got a little grommet in the hole there. The yellow wire will go to my purge solenoid. White wire will go to my switch on the carburetor for my full throttle switch. And then from the switch, it will go to the relay. Alright, so my next step is to fabricate some sort of little bracket or plate or something to hook this full throttle switch to my carburetor. So I'm going to pull the carburetor off and find some sort of piece of metal or something to mount it onto the side of the carburetor. Alright, so I've been working on the full throttle switch on the carburetor, and here's what I've come up with. I think it'll work pretty good. Get down here where we can see. Got a red light flashing off my camera, reflecting. Couldn't figure out what that was at first. Okay, so this limit switch here, or little micro switch, whatever you want to call it, I've got to where it's set up at full throttle, or just before full throttle. Right there it's made, and I've got just a little bit more than full throttle. So it should engage and disengage when it's supposed to, and not get hung up, and work as intended. I hope it don't get hung open. If that happens, I'll have to flip the switch, but I think it'll work all right. Didn't cost me hardly anything to hook that little switch up, because that was just a little piece of aluminum I had laying around. So I'll get the carburetor back on, and we're going to finish up some wiring. I want to show you real quick kind of a very poor drawing of my wiring diagram, if this makes any sense to anybody. Of course, I've got my ignition, 12 volts, coming from the fuse block, going up to the purge button, and then it just goes to the purge. So it's just straight through. There's no relay or anything on the purge. Now for the rest of the nitrous and the fuel pump, it goes to the arming switch to here, and then it wires off before the throttle switch. Goes to my fuel pump relay. That way when I turn my arming switch on, the fuel pump comes on, which is down here. And that's the relay. And then from there it goes to the throttle switch on the other side of the throttle switch. When that throttle switch, when I'm at full throttle, it connects that relay or sends voltage to that relay, which then sends voltage to my nitrous and the fuel solenoids. The fuel pump's already on, ready to go. The nitrous solenoid is purged. So if that makes any sense to you guys, that's kind of what I did. Whether it's right or wrong, that's pretty much, most of it is the way the instructions showed as far as the nitrous side of things. The fuel pump, they didn't have anything for that, but all I needed was some way to turn on the fuel pump when the rest of it was on. So that's how I done it. I probably should have a fuse in there somewhere. I may add an inline fuse in just in case, but their instructions didn't even show that. So I'm not saying it doesn't need it, but their instructions didn't even have a fuel pump, or a fuse, inline fuse. So alright, I've got everything wired up. I kind of spared you all the boringness of me figuring everything out, getting it all wired up. It's still not completely all strapped in where it's going to be, but it is wired up to where it will work. What I'm going to do now is try to set my fuel pump regulator. I've got to set it at about 8 psi according to Nitrous Express's chart that they've got. They need 8 psi for the 100 shot. I think the 150 shot. I think after the 200 shot, then you got to bump your pressure up. But what I'm going to do is, I've got my tube, my solenoid, disconnected from the plate, and I've got the hose. Actually, I've got the jet that's going in there. That's supposed to be in that plate. I'm going to put it down this little bottle. Hopefully that's enough. That way I've got the right amount of flow to set my regulator correctly, because since this is a deadhead regulator, it doesn't have a return line on it. You really need to set it with it flowing in the under normal conditions, where it's actually running with the switch on and full throttle, all that stuff. You want to make sure you've got it set to where the pressure is right then, because if you set it with it just deadheading against the solenoid, with the solenoid closed, the pressure may be higher on the gauge, but once the solenoid opens, it starts flowing, the pressure could drop down. So I want to adjust the pressure as it's flowing. So it's going to be a little bit of a process to do that. I think I've got it all set up. I've got my fuel pump relay. This is the nitrous relay for the nitrous solenoids, and this is for my fuel pump. Now I've got a jumper to where I can hook it straight to the battery to turn the fuel pump on and off outside underneath the hood where I'm out here working, so I can turn it on and off out here, not have to worry about the switch inside the truck. Now the arming switch, or the actual switch, throttle switch I guess you call it, I'll have to turn the arm switch on the inside, turn the key on, all that stuff, and actually work it here to open this solenoid. I don't have any way really to just open this solenoid by itself without undoing some wires. So I'll just have to probably reach over here, flip the switch. Once I get the pump running, flip this switch, open this solenoid, it'll dump into this bottle, and then I will try to adjust the regulator. So I'm going to get everything set up. I'll set the camera up just in case something big happens. Hopefully nothing catastrophic. I've already had a little bit of an issue with my fuel filters. I'm not real satisfied with them. but I think I've got them figured out. Both the fuel filters were leaking around their the way they're sealed up. I had to really tighten them up to get them to seal, but now I think they're both sealing up good. So, because I've got the fuel filter here, and I've also got one before the pump down there on the frame. So I'll get everything set up and we'll see what happens. I've got my arming switch on inside, the keys on, so that switch should control that solenoid to open it up to put it into that little bottle. Once I turn the fuel pump on, which I could have I guess left it hooked up, because if I would hook this white wire up to this fuel pump relay, it would be on right now with that switch on in the cab. But I want to be able to turn it off and on out here, just in case something happens. If I have a leak, I can unhook it. So let's see what happens. All right. Pump's on. We're at about 6.5 psi, but I have to open this switch. Yeah, I dropped down to about 6. Well, for some reason, I'm not getting much more than 7 psi. Now, that fuel pump's not supposed to be regulated. It's supposed to put out, I think, plenty of pressure according to what I've found. So let me check and see what all is going on. Hopefully that fuel pump isn't internally regulated, because I wanted one that wasn't regulated so I can get at least 10 psi for the bigger shot of nitrous. So I'm going to find out what's going on. I couldn't find anything out on the fuel pump, so it's going to be what it is. We're going to just send it. I'm going to crack this bottle. Make sure we don't have any leaks on the nitrous system. Actually, I'm just going to crack it and then shut it back off and test this purge out. See what it looks like. It'll work. Alright, the bottle's shut off. I actually need to run to town and get some fuel in it. And I got to pull a couple of degrees of timing out of it, probably about 4 degrees. The instructions say 2 degrees per 50 shot. So I'm going to go 100 shots, so I got to pull 4 degrees of timing out. I don't have a whole lot of fuel left in this thing. I've let it, it's been running around and haven't put any fuel in it, so I may run out of fuel. So I'm going to run it to town, get some more fuel in it, come back to the shop, or we may just, I just may move the distributor a little bit and then hit it on the way back to the house. Alright, I've decided on my way back from town, I got some fuel. I'm going to turn the bottle on and we're going to make a test hit. I'm not going to lie, kind of nervous about it. Hopefully nothing blows up. It's just 100 shots, so it should handle it, but just, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. Alright, here we go. It's armed. people say it's easy to get hooked on nitrous, because that was awesome. That's all I'm going to give you right now, because there's a little bit of traffic this morning. I can tell you what, that was definitely worth all the work I put into it, just that one hit. And that's just a 100 shot. I can't wait to get this thing to the track. That's going to be freaking awesome. Holy crap. Yeah. I'm not sure if you can tell how excited I was in that video inside the truck, but that was pretty awesome. Not sure if you guys could tell that it really hit, but I could feel it in the truck. It's only a 100 horse shot, but it was a big difference. I think I'm going to leave it there till the next time we hit the track, which that will be this next weekend, the 25th. So watch for the video a day or two after that. So we'll be taking him to the track. But kind of give you an idea, or give you a look at how everything's turned out. And this is what I'm talking about rushing my wiring, because I just want to get hooked up and done. It's kind of a mess. I plan on tidying it up a little bit more before I go to the track. I just kind of run out of time today. I've got this still yet to hide and run to the right place. I hope the wait was worth it. It was for me. I know it's kind of drug out over several videos, and it takes me a while to get stuff done sometimes around here because of my schedule and things going on. I've got more videos coming up. I've got some other stuff, you know, want to show you guys on this channel. So you guys stay tuned, and in the meantime, y'all keep your square bodies rolling, and we'll catch you later.